All right, we're just sharing some of these links so that people will come on. You know how I like to start my end here. Welcome to WGSN. I will give you my full, fun, exciting intro in just a moment. If you're in one of the groups that I'm saying to, I'm sorry for spamming. Just how we do things. It's good if you can have this thing where you could be able to share it to all, like, a bunch of different, I don't know if I'm doing it wrong or what, but like, just the way technology works, and we're going to talk about technology tonight. So we're going to really have some fun. If you're here for the first time, welcome. All right, that's all from me. And you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to start a watch party from my phone. And we will get going. So if you're here for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dr. Christopher Salute. I am your host. This is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. You are now watching The Barbershop. Now, The Barbershop, for those folks who have not watched The Barbershop before, The Barbershop is a men's show where we discuss dating, we discuss mental health, we discuss all sorts of great things. Now, I'm going to share. How do I do this? I want to do a watch party. Is this a watch party? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that works. Worst case scenario, I don't know. So this is a show where we discuss just kind of men's issues. We discuss dating from the men's perspective. And, we discuss a lot of my kind of personal history. If you haven't known me before or anything about me, you might have noticed, oh, here we go. Now I can do a watch party. Start watch party. Oh, boom. Okay. So if you haven't noticed me before, or if you've known me before, you'll note a couple of things about my life in dating. I typically am what you call a serial monogamous, so I'm just constantly in and out of kind of the dating world. I did not start my life in online dating. I actually started my life, and if you're on my watch party, feel free. Aunt Jeannie's on. We got to wave. Say hi to Aunt Jeannie. How's it going, Aunt Jenny? So if you're on the show and you've never seen my kind of dating history, I've been single now, not married, since, officially, like 2015 is when the divorce was finalized, but probably around 2014 is when we started. Now, I started my romantic life in a non-online world, right? I mean, when I met my ex-wife, we had MySpace. I think we may not have had Facebook yet. We had things like Hot or Not. There was no Tinder. There was nothing like that. And I remember when I left my marriage, I remember thinking to myself, what an interesting life to be in at this time when you can meet somebody online, right? I remember thinking specifically, I can swipe right. I can meet somebody online. Okay. I can Uber to a place or Uber them to my home. We can order Seamless or Grubhub for dinner. They can Uber home. Oh, and we can watch Netflix or whatever the app was. Without any personal interaction, could I have a date? Right? Really, really interesting. I wanted to start this show with kind of two stories. The first story actually happened today. Okay. Now, if you don't know me, I tend to get at least. Oh, hi, Elena. How are you? I tend to get at least, and feel free, Elena, and feel free anybody, comment. Give me some of your horror stories. Give me some failures. Give me some successes. Give me some fun stuff. I tend to get anywhere between, on any given platform, 1 to 2 friend requests, 1 to 2 messages a day. That's not bragging. It's just what it is. I typically don't answer them. Okay. I even put on my social media, I'm not here to answer. Oh, and Louise is here. The whole family's here. I'm not here to answer your your DMs. Okay. It's not what I do. Now, do I have a history of being in folks' DMs? Absolutely. Okay. I used to use social media platforms and used to really date around a lot. Okay. And it's not really something that I do and something that I enjoy. But once in a while, I will accept a friend request. And I got a friend request from somebody a couple of days ago, and she seemed attractive, didn't really have any mutual friends, wasn't sure where it came from. It happens. I said, you know what? Let's take a shot, right? I messaged them. I posted on their wall, happy birthday, so that hey, Laura, how are you? I'm just sending you a wave. I posted on their wall, happy birthday, because their birthday was like the day after we got the friend request. Okay. Posted on their wall, happy birthday. Cool. She messages me a day or two later. I don't even know how I became your friend. And I go, well, I don't know either. You friend requested me. I don't normally answer, whatever. And I friend request and I answered. And we get to chatting, and she's very attractive. And she asks, if I somehow came up with, are you single? I said, yeah, I'm single. I said, I don't think I even mentioned that I was ever married. I said, yeah, I'm single. Oh, she said something about, I said, I don't know how to say no to very many people. And she said, oh, you don't know how to say no? I said, no. She said, well, then marry me. And I thought that was funny. And I said, well, I appreciate that. I said, she said, do you want to get married? In other words, do you want to marry me? And I said, well, when I find the right person, eventually, I'll say yes, just as kind of an answer to that. And she obviously meant marry me. And it was kind of a funny moment. So we get to talk and we're chatting. Throughout the conversation, she mentions that she lives in a province that's not in the U.S. And, I said, well, yeah, I don't know where that is. I said, and I admittedly said, I said, U.S. folks tend to be pretty ignorant with regard to geography. We're pretty self-centered. And, blah, blah. And she goes, how embarrassing. You're a professor and you don't know that province in Canada. And I said, well, I do a lot of things really great. Geography is not my thing. I tend to, I GPS myself to the grocery store. It's just, it's fine. She goes, well, there's no need to get defensive. And blah, blah. I said, well, I can get a little defensive. You're a stranger in my inbox, And she goes, no wonder you're single. At this point, I say, thank you. I wish you the best of luck. Unfriend. Have a good day. And she goes, I can't believe you got so defensive. I was like, have a good day. And I started thinking about it. And I thought to myself, what is it about an interaction with someone online that allows you to be unfiltered like that, to say whatever it is that's coming into your brain, right? It's almost like road rage. You would say things behind the wheel of a car. You'd call somebody a mother, all sorts of stuff, right? You would never say that to somebody in a grocery store, right? And I think it's that kind of swipe mentality where A, we're behind a screen, and B, we know we're going to meet somebody else. Yeah, Elena, wow, I agree. We know we're going to meet somebody else. So people are disposable, right? I even wore, just so y'all can see, I even wore one of my favorite shirts today in honor of today's dating online. And it says, I'm a solid swipe right, which I love to wear out because, I don't know, it just gets people kind of thinking. But technology, in my opinion, is really something that makes people disposable. The other story I want to tell you today, they just kind of get your brain moving and come at me with some comments. I mean, let's really have some dialogue tonight. The other conversation I thought would be a good conversation to have is, if anybody's seen this Cobra Kai show, right? I'm going to be honest. I don't care. I know it's a trendy thing. I wanted to watch the show the minute that it came out on YouTube Red or Premium or whatever. I'm a huge 80s movies fan. My he was an older brother, 5 years older than me. We watched 80s movies all the time, right? So I was a little bit ahead of, Indiana Jones, Karate Kid, Star Wars a little bit, that was more 70s than 80s. Back to School, all that kind of fun stuff, all the 80s stuff. And, I'm a huge Karate Kid fan. So I wanted to watch Cobra Kai the minute it came out. And it just kind of, I watched like an episode when I had YouTube Premium for a trial, and then I didn't want to spend the money, and I was going to. Trust me when I tell you, I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch the show. I Googled it a couple of months ago, and all of a sudden I find out it's coming on Netflix. So I'm like, oh my God, yes. Come to find out, first of all, I got through that show in about a day and a half. That show, I was hungover one day after I can't drink anymore. Let me tell you, I can't drink uh, at all. And so I'm sitting on the couch. I'm hungover. I think me and the guys had like 4 or 5 drinks the night before, and I'm a wreck the next day. I mean, I ate like the greasiest, grossest breakfast with a bowl of cereal, etc. Alina says, I speak my mind all the time. I know sometimes it's bad, but I guess I prefer to say what I think. Then I don't have the perfect word for it. Then you won't be fake. That's cool. I'm going to address that in a second. Elena's note, fake. We'll talk about that. And I think there's a way to be genuine, right? Europeans are very straightforward. That could be true. This person was from North America, but not American. So maybe that's he's never Canadian. So I'm watching Cobra Kai, and the episode comes on. If you've seen the show yet, first of all, it's like the #1 show in the country, right? I mean, it's without a doubt. I think it's classic. I think it's fantastic. I think it's hysterical. I think it's cheesy, exactly where it needs to be cheesy. I think it's a fantastic show. These guys did a great job of putting a show together. I want everyone to come back. I want the main villain from Karate Kid 2, I heard, is coming back. I heard Allie with an I is coming back, Elizabeth Shue. I want Mike Barnes to come back in that show, right? But anyway, so there's an episode where Johnny Lawrence, the kid, who's like kind of down on his luck, he downloads a dating app. Is one of his students like, oh, you got to get on this dating app, and he gets on this dating app, and he's trying to meet somebody, and he's going through people at the same bar. It's just kind of like a montage, and he's like bewildered at how ridiculous online dating is and how technology is ruining dating, because he's like swimming through people. Nobody's his type. And it's just, he's pissed, right? He's trying to meet somebody. And then finally somebody comes over to him, gives him a nudge. This really cute girl gives him like a shoulder nudge, and they strike up a conversation. It doesn't work for them. And then he does something really interesting, which is something that we've all, I'll bet, done. He goes on Facebook and he friend requests, or does he friend request her? He messages Allie, his ex-girlfriend from high school, where it all began in the original Karate Kid. And it got me thinking about why technology has been the downfall of dating. Now, I want to address Elena's comment, and then I want to jump into why I think technology has been the downfall of dating. So, Elena, I think there's nothing wrong with being straightforward, okay? In my opinion, I think this person was a little too straightforward. I think they were a little offensive. Now, in my defense, I'm a little sensitive, right? I'm a sensitive guy. If you had to pick a couple of adjectives for me, sensitive would make it to the top 5 fairly easily, maybe the top 10, right? This person didn't know anything about me. To make an assumption about why I'm single, there are about 1,001 reasons as to why I'm single, okay? Number 1 is I run 3 magazines, a radio show, a talent agency, an event company. I have 2 full-time jobs, and I've just gotten over a bad breakup, and I've had some fairly traumatic things go on in my life, like heart surgery and divorce and God knows what else. There's a lot of reasons that I'm single, okay? The other reason that I'm single is because I choose to be single, right? But there's nothing wrong with being your genuine self online. And I 100% agree with that. I think it's great. I think that the more straightforward we can be, the better. I think that there's a fine line, though, between being straightforward and being offensive, right? A great example is I had somebody message me, unfortunately, a little while back. She said to me, thanks for all of these compliments. And I hadn't said a word to her. Apparently, the dating app that we were on, there were these conversation starters that say, you're pretty, you're cute, you're wonderful. And she thought that I was complimenting her, right? And so Elena says you're on Karate Kid episode 3. Awesome. She thought that I was complimenting her. And I didn't know how to tell her that I hadn't said a word yet. In fact, she really wasn't. We had met, but it was kind of like a flick of the wrist. I wasn't really all that interested just based on her profile. And so I was straightforward, and I said, I think those are conversation starters. But I noticed a couple of things about your profile that are really awesome, and I'd like to tell you those things. And I kind of, went in that direction. So I think it's okay to be straightforward as long as you're not offensive for sure. So I want to talk about why I think technology is one of the downfalls of the dating life today. And it stems from this Cobra Kai episode. Okay? Now, in this particular episode, Johnny Lawrence, he messages Allie. Oh, I don't want to tell you what happened. But in the show, it's well known that Allie is married to the doctor and she's married to another guy. Okay? Now, if you remember that movie, right, the original Karate Kid, Johnny and Allie definitely had some chemistry. They were angry, they were passionate, but there was definitely some chemistry there. If it was hostile energy, if it was toxic energy, definitely something there that still drew them to each other, or at least drew Johnny to Allie, and obviously some history there, right? I want you to think about this. What happens when you're in a seemingly happy relationship and you get a friend request or a notification or just a reminder online that somebody from your past exists? A couple of things happen. Number one is always talk about the island theory, okay? When you leave a relationship, typically you're not leaving on great terms, right? Sometimes you're leaving on good terms, but they're not great terms. If they were on great terms, guess what? You'd still be together, right? So you leave an island. The relationship is the island, right? Sometimes that island is on fire, okay? You cannot stay on that island anymore. So you are rowing and you are rowing and you are rowing away from that island, and you're looking back to make sure that the fire hasn't caught on your boat. You're rowing and you're rowing and you're rowing, okay? Now, I'm going to assume at some point you find another island, right? And that's the current relationship that you're in. But if it's not the current relationship, if you don't have another island to go back to, sometimes you're off stranded in the ocean and you go, God, I mean, that island, at least it was an island. I didn't have to keep rowing. I mean, sure, it was on fire, but maybe it's kind of died down a little bit, and you forget how hot and hostile the island was, right? All you remember are the good times, right? The fruit that it bore, right? The tide rolling in, the sunset or the sunrise, whatever your preference is. I'm more of a sunset guy myself, right? And so you row back to that island, and maybe it's a good island, maybe it's a bad island, but there's a reason you left the island, right? There's a reason it didn't work out. And these online reconnections forget to remind us that, right? That there may or may not have been a reason that something didn't go right with that relationship. The other thing that happens, Elena says, OMG, I so feel you right now with this. Well, thank you, Elena. I appreciate that. And feel free, everybody else, give us a comment, give us some horror stories, some failures, some successes. But we want to remember when this online encounter happens, right? There are so many other factors at play. And the reason that I really am not a huge fan of it, and we're going to talk about it after the break, is that it provides us with options when we weren't looking for them necessarily, right? Now, look, I want to preface this conversation. I want to give you the caveat that, yes, with technology and with reconnections come amazing opportunities, right? If you are in a relationship that you need to desperately get out of, there may be emotional, verbal, psychological, physical abuse, right? Get out. Technology can certainly help you reconnect with someone who can get you there safely, right? If you are in a place where you need to speak to somebody, technology is wonderful. I'm not saying that for any other reason. If there are other things at play, if you are disabled, if you have a phobia about leaving your home, all these things, if you feel more comfortable online, I get that, okay? There are wonderful things that technology can do, but I'm talking about generalities. For the most part, I feel that technology is one of the few things that has really destroyed the way we date and the way we treat folks. Now, this actual concept has been something I've been thinking about for a long time. And if you know, I don't really host the show, the Think It Twice show with Twice anymore. But I just kind of sit in the background. He uses my space, and I tend to argue with him quite a bit. And he was talking about, just some non-chivalrous things, some what I felt were chauvinistic things. And my answer to him was that I thought that it's technology that leads to that particular way of thinking. It's technology that leads us to the way of thinking where we can do and say whatever we want, right? Now that is our 20-minute time period, and we're going to take a break for just a couple of seconds. We're going to come back. This is about a 45-minute show. We do this because this show is actually aired in a number of different locations, and we're able to pay for the technology that we use through sponsorship. So what we have to do is take a quick break. You're going to see me in silence. If this is your first time watching the show, I'm literally going to sit here in silence. So please don't leave. It's only about a 20-second pause so we can throw our sponsors in there. This is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. You're watching The Barbershop. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Salute. Today we're talking about technology and the downfall of dating. We'll be right back. And I'm just inviting some friends here to watch the show. I thought we might have a couple more folks on the watch party, might make it a little bit more fun. And we are back. This is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. I'm your host of The Barbershop. This is Dr. Christopher Salute. Today we are talking about how and why technology is the downfall of dating. And I haven't really gotten into the beef of it yet. This is where we get into the meat. I like to keep you guessing, right? That first 20 minutes. This is where I'm going to get into the meat of why I think technology is the downfall of dating. And it started as a concept and an idea stemming from the show last week where Twice hosted and was just talking about some non-chivalrous kind of things. We have become disposable. Now, if you follow evolutionary psychology at all, and I'm not going to say that I subscribe to it. I'm not going to say that I don't, okay? We are tribal, okay? And if you look at the way that we are in tribes, right, there's two functions, okay? Physiologically, the male species, and I'm gender typing immensely, so please cut me some slack, but the male species tends to be able to procreate much faster, right? Their job, as it were biologically, typically is to create more humans, right? That is one of the major functions of that gender, right? Now we get into fluidity of gender and things of that nature. I'm not going to have that conversation. We've had that conversation multiple times. You know that I believe in all different types of genders and sexes, but that typically is a male kind of thing. And to be honest, right, men tend to think that way a lot of times, right? Just kind of the way that they think, right? Moving on to the next, right? They tend to think a little differently. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? Now, is monogamy possible? Absolutely. I mean, we've all been in successful monogamous relationships. I hope to find one again, right? But what technology is allowing men to do, in my opinion, this is one of the reasons that technology is downfall, is to be fly by night and flighty, to, treat relationships and to treat interactions as though they're tissues. I remember specifically somebody said to me, I don't care what you do, just don't treat me like a tissue. And I thought to myself, wow, that's powerful. And I won't do that. But it allows, unfortunately, men, I think, the ability to move on to the next, to somebody who's going to kind of play the game that they want to play, right? And I say this because I have a lot of female friends who tend to, have kind of validated and whatever the word is, confirmed that that's something that goes on, right? So we're in these situations where, if you don't give me what I want, I can kind of just go on to the next person, right? Without building a deep connection, right? There's another thing at play here, right? The other thing at play is that when we interact online first and mostly, right, especially with COVID, right, going on at this moment, right? When we interact so much online, we tend to think we're getting a true understanding of people's wants, needs, desires, that kind of fun stuff, right? We think we're getting a true, kind of design or set of who that person is without really delving into that person for a number of reasons. Number one is we're not physically sharing space. I don't care what you say. Online interactions are great. Okay, it allows you to span the world. It allows you to make friends you wouldn't have made. I have friends all over the world. Okay, are they really friends? Have I shared space with those folks? Have I cried next to them and watched them cry? Have I had a meal with them? Have I gotten work done next to them? You want to know who I am? Okay, find me on a Saturday afternoon when I've got the TV going and I'm working on one of my magazines, or I'm working on a consulting project, or I'm working on a new store that I'm building. Okay, dig your feet under my butt, watch the show with me, sit in silence for an hour. Okay, eat snacks. That's who I am. Okay, you want to know who I am? Come to the gym with me, sweat with me, fight MMA. You want to know who I am? Share a meal. Watch me overeat sushi, right? That'll tell you a lot about who I am, because I have major eating things that go on, okay, in my life. Okay, you don't get that online. Yet you think you have this sense of who this person is because you've shared some conversations with them. Maybe you've even sent some photos. Maybe you've sent some lewd photos, right? And so all of a sudden the intimacy occurs before truly getting to know somebody, before true intimacy sets in, right? And so on both sides of the coin, whether it be male or female, we're both misled to think that this online world is wonderful, right? That's when we're meeting new people. The other thing that I think that the online world creates is a false sense of security when we exit a relationship. Okay, and let me explain this. Okay, if you're truly unhappy in a relationship, by all means, exit the relationship. Nobody should be somewhere where they're unhappy. Okay, but I keep going back to this meme over and over and over. I've seen it probably 100 times. I've went and found it. Okay, so I like this meme, and there's like a picture of a clock or a watch, and this is how great I know it. And I can't even tell you if it's a clock or a watch, and the caption says, and it's behind the watch is an older couple, and it says, we've gotten this watch fixed over and over because when something's broken, we don't throw it away, we repair it. And I love that. I love that because generations other than, and I'm talking about millennials and below, okay? Any generations above us tend to have longer relationships. Right now, divorce started to get prevalent around the, I think 50s, 60s, 70s, really, right? Free love happened, right? 80s, definitely for sure. 90s, it became definitely a thing. Now it's 2000, the 2000s, and, your average marriage is 3 years long, right? If you're lucky, you get to that 5-year point. And so I think there's something to be said about repairing a relationship versus throwing it away. Right? Elena says, I do have friends online, even if I've never met them. Absolutely. And I'm not saying that you can't have a friend. I'm not saying that your relationships are not real relationships. What I'm saying is that there are intimate things that you're missing out on when you don't physically share space with someone. And I think that we can all agree to that, right? I think that we've gotten so comfortable online, and especially with COVID. I'll tell you what, as an educator myself, do I love teaching online? Yeah, absolutely. Take a bathroom break whenever I want to. My classes are shorter. I can film myself because that's what I tend to do. I film myself and put myself on the air, and then I log on for live sessions, really more to answer questions, right? Do I love it? Absolutely. But let me tell you something. You don't take my classes because I'm an intelligent guy, okay? Sorry to burst your bubble, okay? I'm a decently smart guy, okay? IQ is somewhere up there, but I'm also a moron, okay? You take my classes because I'm going to give you a show, okay? Because I'm going to explain something to you in a way that you can comprehend it and you can really fathom it. I'm going to give you a high five when I'm done. I'm going to fist bump you when it's over. I'm going to dance around the room. I'm going to jump in your face. I'm going to scream. I'm going to shout. I'm going to laugh. We're all going to cry and have a good time, okay? You miss that when you take any of my classes online. You just do. Can I replicate some of that charisma face-to-face? Yeah, I like to think that I do it here, right? But you miss something when you don't share space with me, right? And so that is truly, I think, something that we're missing with COVID, and something that we're missing in general as we tend to recluse and spend more time online, okay? Now, yes, are there anxiety reasons that we stay online? Yes, absolutely. Do those anxiety reasons exist, or did they exist before technology became so prevalent in our lives? I don't know. I don't want to know because it would make me sad, right? But I appreciate your point, Elena, for sure. Getting back to the idea that the online world creates a false sense of security when you leave your relationship, I think is something that we really need to think about. Now, I want to preface this with, if you are truly unhappy in a relationship, you exit the relationship. No questions asked, right? But what about the times that you're not truly unhappy in a relationship? I speak to so many folks, and I'll be honest. I mean, even in my marriage was wonderful. It really was. I was so in love with my special person. And I've been in love since then with special people. When we have the option to exit versus stay and repair, it's very tempting to toss away and move on, right? I will tell you the best times in my relationship romantic life were when I was without a cell phone or without social media. Talking about vacations, like cruises, even a cabin in the woods where I didn't have any Wi-Fi. Even when I just took social media breaks, very often, like during Lent, I'll take a social media break sometimes. I didn't do it this year because there was nothing else to do. I'll take social media breaks around holidays. I'll take social media breaks. I'm taking a huge one right now where I'm really not on social media that much. And I engage a little bit, but I'm not posting as much. Okay? When those options of speaking to other people are out of my brain, my relationships are 1,000 times better. Now, have I cheated? No. No. Right? But do I know from being online that if I leave this relationship, I've got something waiting? Yeah. What is it? They call it something. Oh gosh, there's something I think a couple of years ago. It's called soft setup or something. I totally forgot what it's called. But it's knowing that you've got an option. Sometimes you even make use of that option to complain about your relationship with your old ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, or someone you've met online, or someone you came to respect, right? Let me tell you something. And I'm sorry if I'm sitting weird. My neck's killing me tonight. If you are taking time to talk about your relationship, again, as long as you're not in an abusive relationship, as long as you're somewhat mostly happy, if you're taking time to talk about the downfalls of your own relationship with a stranger that you've met online, or an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend that you've reconnected with, or somebody that you have ever flirted with romantically, if you're in that situation, I'm not going to call it cheating, but you are definitely not being faithful to your relationship. Okay? You are without a doubt setting yourself up for failure, because you are getting reassurance from a fresh person that you're right when they've only got half a story. You are not talking to the person you should be, which is the person you're in the freaking relationship with. And you're giving attention to somebody else that's not in your relationship, right? Now, what happens when that occurs? You can guess because you've been there. The minute I end a relationship, it tends to be something that I end, unfortunately. And I'm working on that. That's something that I hope my next relationship's my last, and I'm dead serious about that, because I'm tired of this game where I don't see myself worthy enough, right? But with the minute I'm out of a relationship, this is what I do. Okay, now you may do this, you may not do this. I'm gonna go ahead and say that men do this more than women, but let's think about it. If you agree or disagree, give me a comment. Okay. The minute I'm out of a relationship, give me 24 hours to cry. I usually have about a half a pizza or more. I'll fall asleep with a full stomach and wake up kind of feeling crummy. The first thing I do, download a dating app, 100%. Download a dating app, see what's out there. Start swiping. Okay. Now, spoiler alert, it takes me about 4 days to realize this was a bad idea, and I delete it. Okay. I typically don't even go on a date or engage. And if I engage, it's very little. But what I want to do, the minute I've ended my relationship, and this is something that I certainly probably should, talk to my therapist about, I want to make sure that there's somebody out there. I want to make sure there's a future relationship for me. I want to make sure I'm not going to spend my days alone. Okay? Me. Okay? Hosting a radio show, small business owner, educator, PhD. I want to make sure I'm not alone. I want to make sure I've got somebody. Allie says, hi. Hey, Allie, how are you? Allie and I are dear friends. We went on dates and we met online. So maybe they're not always the worst things, right? But that's what I want to do. I want to assure myself. I want to confirm and validate my own romanticism by making sure that I've got something to hold on to grasp onto when this relationship's over. Megan says, "Hey," in the chat room, in our watch party. Hey, Megan, how are you? Okay, so what it does is this online world is it creates, and feel free, Megan, if you're in our watch party, feel free to comment. It won't probably pop up on the screen, but I'll read it aloud and I'll answer your question. So if you've got horror stories, failures, successes online, anything involving technology, bring it here. Okay. Any comments, questions, whatever. Okay. Elena's been an all-star. I'm giving Elena a gold star. Okay. If that's my professor hat. Okay. So it gives us this false sense that we've got somebody waiting for us. When the reality is, there's a couple of things. First of all, my roommate's a great guy. He and I will say this over and over, and I'll repeat this. And I've said this before I met him, but it's just something that we bond over as well. I say this to my dear friend Chelsea, if you're listening today, because she's always, oh, what's with these guys? I'll repeat. There's 7.5 billion people on this planet, right? Okay, so if you're hetero, you can mate with half of them. Okay, can you date half of them? No. Okay, but you could if you had to physically start a family with half of those folks. Okay, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. Okay, if you are interested and desiring and finding a relationship, if that is what you want, if you do not want to die alone, you will not. Now, is it going to take some flexibility? Sure. Is it going to take some patience? Sure. That's with any relationship. And to be honest, the quirkiness that we all have in our lives anyway, just given that it's 2020, you'd have to do that with any relationship you started. And let's break this down for a second. If you didn't just leave the relationship you left to find somebody else new online, you'd probably have to be flexible and patient anyway, right? So what we tend to do in these situations is we leave a relationship thinking and hoping that there's something out there, right? But what is the actual thing we're looking for? Let me just read this real quick. Elena says, I've met my husband 13 years ago online. We have ups, we have downs. We try to repair when stuff gets broke, but I don't know if we can repair all the time. And that's fair. And I get that. And I in no way, shape, or form, look, I'm divorced, okay? I've also had a failed engagement. I'm fairly certain that I had probably the love of my life, and I lost that person recently. Okay. There's no way I'm not here criticizing your relationship and telling you couldn't make it work because you're leaving and looking online. There's this great TV show, movie. Cece will know it, I'll bet, because you love all the dating movies and stuff like that. It's from the 90s. Can't Buy Me Love. Bye Bye Love, right? It's got where are all the actors in it? Bye Bye Love. Let me see. I'm gonna look it up because I'm like now I'm into it, right? Let's see. Bye Bye Love. It's with Paul Reiner. Is that the guy? Bye Bye Love. From 1995. It is. Let's see. Who's in it? Produced by, written by, starring Matthew Modine, Randy Quaid, Paul Reiser, Jenny Garofalo, right? Rob Reiner. Really, really great movie. Megan says, I have to go put the baby to sleep, but I will say, speaking about boundaries openly during the beginning of a relationship, is probably what she's going to say is important. Very cool. So this movie, Bye Bye Love, right? There's this radio talk show, and he's constantly criticizing everybody's really, why can't you make it work, Mike? Why can't you make it work? By the end of the movie, you find out he's got like 7 ex-wives or something like that. That's not me. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to sit here and critique your relationship and criticize you and say that you're this terrible person. So I just want to read Megan's comment. Speaking about boundaries openly during the beginning of a relationship will save a lot of heartache for the rest of the relationship. Well, I will absolutely agree with that, because I think that you need to clearly understand what you consider cheating and what you consider okay, right? In my last relationship, and I'm open about what happens online. I'm constantly getting spoken to online, right? Good, bad, everything, right? And somebody had messaged me, and they said they were a sex worker, right? They had an OnlyFans account, and they said, hey, do you want to check out my OnlyFans or whatever? And that's not really something that I do anyway. It's just not, I don't make those types of connections. All power to you if that's what you want. I totally support sex work in any way, shape, or form. I think it's, it should just be regulated, and that's great. And I said to her, you know what? I appreciate you reaching out. And I'm sure it's great. I followed her. She was a beautiful woman. I said, you're a very attractive woman. I said, I'm seeing someone who would consider that support being unfaithful, right? Would I consider being unfaithful? It's a gray area because you're providing a service, right? I said, my partner would consider that unfaithful, and I want to respect my partner. I'm very much in love with her. And she said, oh, you're a great guy. Not everybody would say that and do that. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that. We had discussed a lot of boundaries prior to that conversation happening. I just knew. I knew that wouldn't be something that she'd appreciate, right? And so that was just an easy conversation. I said, hey, just not something I want, right? So also an easy out for me because it just wasn't something that I wanted to support, right? Megan says, yes, everyone has different definitions of what cheating is to them, for sure, right? So I consider cheating, right? I consider cheating physically cheating, or even emotionally going on a date, something like that. I'm a man of God. I am. And I've talked about this very often on almost every show. I talk about my faith. If not, maybe every show. I understand temptation. Okay. Temptation happens in all ways, shapes, and forms. And I truly believe that. And I am, like Leap of Faith with Steve Martin. Who are you going to talk to when you want to talk about sin? You're going to talk about some priest who's never, blah, 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 blah. Or you're going to talk about the truth, the big sinner, the real sinner, me. And, Steve Martin just talking about how he had a life of crime. And then he was this kind of, I don't know, kind of backwards, preacher. He was a con artist, and he was trying to con everybody. But I'm not a con artist. I firmly believe you can sin and be a man of faith. And that dichotomy does not preclude you from going to church on Sundays, right? I happen to be Catholic, and they would definitely disagree with me. They're like, here's the bucket, make sure you're paying for your sins, right? But I firmly believe that temptation, it's out there. It exists, right? And there are times in which you might stray, right? The level of stray depends on who you are and what your boundaries are, right? Have I had people message me online and I was tempted to flirt? Yeah. Did I maybe even have a flirtatious conversation that if you read, you might go, ooh, that's a little bit gray, Yeah, I have. I totally have. I'm a flirt. I'm a Libra, okay? We flirt. That's what we do. We flirt like we breathe, okay? And would I consider that cheating? No. If my partner were doing the same thing, would I consider it cheating? No. Would I be hurt to know it? A little bit, yeah. And I would expect them to be hurt to know it a little bit. But having an open conversation about it is cool too. Hey, why'd you flirt with that dude? Honestly, I was bored. You were on a business trip. I flirted a little bit. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Where do they live? 10,000 miles away. Cool. Do your thing, right? You coming back to me later? Great. We still going to be intimate? Awesome, because that's a huge part of my relationship. Are we cooking later? Because that's also a huge part of my relationship. I want to cook with you, right? Do you still love me? Can we cuddle? Can you tell me how great I am? Would you let me tell you how great you are? Great. These are things that physically I share with you because we're in a relationship of intimacy, love, and trust together, either in our same home or, somewhat close to each other, or we're in a long distance relationship and we're seeing each other at some point, right? And that's where this technology thing breaks down. When you see somebody every day, right? I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I had a relationship. Like I said, I've been married, I've been engaged, I've lost the love of my life, I think on one or two times, certainly pretty recently. And I remember waking up one morning and I remember breathing in my partner, just taking a breath, right? I breathed her in. And I remember thinking to myself, she smells great. She didn't smell like roses. She didn't smell like perfume, okay? She smelled like morning, okay? She smelled like a normal human being, okay? And she looked like a normal human being. No makeup, nothing, okay? Skin wasn't lotioned. She wasn't ready for a photo shoot. She was just her, breathing. And I looked at her. It's very rare that I would wake up before my partner because I tend to like to sleep in on the weekends. And I looked at her and I said, oh my God, is she just freaking gorgeous? And does she smell great? Let me just taste her. And I woke her up and I kissed her. And did she taste like mouthwash and toothpaste and gum? No, she tasted like morning. But I loved it. I loved everything about it. Okay, and that's intimacy. That's love. That is a connection that you cannot find online, because online you have 19 filters, a tube top you just got from the store that you're probably going to return, a pair of heels that you don't wear out, makeup on. I'm freshly shaved, putting my hair together. I'm wearing a tight t-shirt. I just worked out. I've got a filter on too. Okay, this is not real life. And so we're tempted by this online world. We're tempted by this thing, this pie in the sky kind of holier than thou kind of ideal. And next to us is a beautifully smelling morning with a sunrise hitting the face of somebody that we've shared the best moments with, right? That have seen us. I've talked about eating disorders on some of my other videos, have seen me binge and hate myself, and have seen me get really down on myself because of my body, but rise back up because it's something that I've overcome, have seen me at my worst where I'm paralyzed to the point where I can't even move because of how badly I was attacked online, right? Have seen me when a loved one has died, has seen me when I moved from New York to Las Vegas, has seen and smelled and tasted and touched and heard everything that there is to hear and see and touch and smell about me. And is there and is still there, right? And we compare that to a filter of a person who did a photo shoot with an iPhone 11 under a waterfall with 19 filters. And here's the best part. Not only do we compare it once, we compare that one human to these superhumans, and we do it over and over and over. We do it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many followers do you have? How many friends do you have on Facebook? Hundreds, thousands. And you compare this poor human to an infinite amount of people, to the other 3.5 billion people on the planet that you could possibly mate with. And you go, well, this person isn't enough. It's not enough. Not compared to all this. And so instead of taking the time to repair, instead of taking the time to smell, to taste, to touch, to hear, to listen, to feel, to learn, to grow, you go over here where the filters are, where the swiping is, where the facades are. Sure, we'll be genuine, but let me show you my best self right away. And let me show it to you a dozen times with a dozen other people on that dating app, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, where all those things are happening. So instead of taking the time to really get to know somebody, to share that intimacy, to grow and to learn, and to reinvest in that relationship, we start afresh and we do it over and over. Megan says, yes, everyone has different definitions. Oh, she said the same thing. Sorry. Oh, now she's back. Okay. So that is, in a nutshell, why I think technology is completely destroying our level of intimacy and therefore our ability to maintain long-term relationships in 2020. Now, there are a million and one factors that would have you disagree, and I completely get it. There's other great things that technology can do for us. Okay, I'm not disputing that. What I am saying is that instead of investing our time, energy, resources, whatever, into the person who's in front of us, we are swiping right and looking at the next best thing. And I will tell you, from my experience, over and over and over, the grass is not greener. It is just freshly cut and it is filtered. Thank you, everybody, for coming on to the show today, for commenting, for interacting. We had some fresh new faces today. If this is your first time watching or your millionth time watching, this is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. I'm your host of The Barbershop, Dr. Christopher Salute. Thank you for listening to my rant today. I hope you're having a safe and wonderful COVID. Have a wonderful experience this Labor Day weekend. Please be safe. Get outside if you can safely do so, and get off your phone. Elena, thank you as well. Thank you, everybody, for